All right, we are live. Welcome back to the Fast Break podcast here on the Variety Sports Network. I'm your host, Shoot Rock. Once again, at another great weekend of college hoops. So we're going to dive into that. Talk about some of these key results. Look at the rankings, some of these top teams here, how they did this past weekend, and kind of who they got coming up going forward this week. We're also going to do a little bit of revisiting here of our preseason picks, just because I feel like this is a good time for people are kind of starting to get into college basketball a little bit more. Now, we had the NFL conference championships last week. We only got one more NFL game, but that's not for 2 weeks. So people kind of looking for something to tune into next couple of weeks. And I think college basketball is, that's a good spot to do that, as well as, we'll end the show a little bit of NBA discussion, some of the top topics from the association this past week. So hopefully you guys are with me here live. If not, say maybe you're watching this Duke Louisville game that I got on here on the side live right now and watch this after. Appreciate you guys tuning in. So let's start here with those top five teams coming into this week. So top five here in the AP poll. We got number one, Arizona, 20-0. They get a nice win over the weekend as well. See, they beat Arizona, or I'm sorry, I'm thinking like 2 weeks ago with Arizona. Beat Arizona State during the week, but then they won. Who'd they beat during? Why am I blanking? Not great start here. Great start, Duroc. Great start. But yeah, Arizona's still undefeated. Then UConn still number two, 19-1. They had a game against Villanova, went to overtime. A lot of these teams, kind of these top teams here in the Big East, have played UConn kind of tough, but the Huskies just keep finding ways to pull it out. So props to them for that. Michigan at number three, Duke at number four. And then Nebraska has jumped up all the way to number five, Nebraska ball. So we got number three, Michigan versus number five, Nebraska here to start Tuesday night. That should be a really big one. I'm excited for that one. So yeah, those are your top five teams here. So let's the first big game before I kind of even touch on these that I want to get into is this is just like something that's been going on around college basketball lately, and it's really not great. So Charles Bediako returned for Alabama, played for the Crimson Tide this past week. Charles Bediako was on Alabama 2 years ago, entered the NBA draft, stayed in the NBA draft. Granted, has not played in an NBA game, went undrafted. So unlike James Najee, who for Baylor got cleared, Bediako did not get drafted, went undrafted, like I said, kept his name in the NBA draft, past the deadline date, which usually has been the big thing in the past of, hey, if you stay in the NBA draft and you don't get drafted, like you're just done. Like you forgo the rest of your college eligibility. But for some reason here now, that's not the case. Granted, the NCAA tried to say that he was ineligible, but Bediako got a temporary restraining order from a local affiliate or a local judge who's a donor for Alabama. So that there seems like a major conflict of interest. But it doesn't matter. Bediako plays 25 minutes, scores 13 points, had a huge slam. Like he was just dominating because, again, he has played in college basketball 2 years ago. He's not a college basketball player. Funny thing is Alabama loses. So Tennessee goes into Alabama, wins that game 79-73 against at the time 17th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. And that's kind of also what is kind of sparking my, wanting to look back at these preseason predictions today, just because I feel like there was a lot of results this weekend that made things a lot more just kind of wide open in a lot of these leagues than I originally thought they were. So like I said, Tennessee beats Alabama, who was one of my teams that I kind of thought was a top team here in the SEC, and that's just not the case. They were led by 29 from Nate Ament, who, that's what I'm saying. It's a freshman. Like, it's a freshman going up against these now older guys, and he's still dominating. Like, Nate Ament finally kind of coming into his own a little bit here, 29 points, 7 rebounds in this one. And then Jacoby Gillespie with 24 points as well for the Volunteers. So really just nice road win for them. But yeah, I just really have a problem with this. Like, as you're saying here at the bottom, will it change college basketball forever? Right now, college basketball is not going in a good trajectory of all these kind of, like I said, you throw in James Najee, you throw in Charles Bediako. Like, it's a lot of things that used to be like, hey, if you get drafted, if you stay in past the draft deadline, you cannot go back to school. Your eligibility is gone. if you play in the G League, you cannot, like, if you got paid, and that's why it is. It's like, because if you got paid to play college basketball, you're no longer, a amateur collegiate athlete if you're getting paid. But now these guys are getting paid. So that's where, legally, like, a lot of these things are struggling to hold up in courts. But that's also the problem, is the NCAA is like relying on courts to save them. And it's like, with all the things going on in the United States right now, to act like, the Congress and all this, their top priority is college sports eligibility, is just insane. And that's why you're seeing this. So it's going to take someone to take a stand, because before you know it, I really think, again, no one knows. No one knows. I'm not a legal professional. To see a guy that has played in the NBA play college basketball, honestly, at this point would not surprise me. Even if it was like some sort of, like, I think that's what's coming next, is you're seeing here, like, we're seeing a guy that stayed in past the draft deadline get to play. We're seeing, like I said, a guy who actually got drafted, granted, hasn't played in the NBA, hasn't played, I don't believe he's played in the G League. I want to say he's just played been an international pro. And that's where this kind of started, is like international pros being able to play, which, granted, that's a little bit different. Like, there's professional academies, that in Europe, in these other parts of the world, that's pretty much how, like, you start playing, like, before, then you're trying to come to the United States, trying to play, NBA, trying to play whatever sport, is like you play in, you play for the whatever program, like the Real Madrid development team kind of thing, or, U17, like U16 teams, kind of stuff like that. So, like, to call those guys pros, like that kind of pro, a European pro, and these G League guys, is two completely different things. Like, a G League guy has played in college, they're coming back. I get, there was the G League Ignite, it didn't work out. And granted, I think a big part of that is, like, NIL is now, guys could get paid to play college, as opposed to G League Ignite was supposed to be the kind of, like, alternative where you get played, still, kind of go and get drafted kind of thing. So it's really just the wild, wild west right now. But it would not surprise me for, like, some guy that was on a two-way contract to be able to play in the NBA at some point like that. The way things are going, it just really wouldn't surprise me. And that's, like, let's be honest here. Let's be honest here. Are we going to act like college basketball and, like, college football definitely, like, has always been like the minor league for the NBA, or, college football has always been the minor league for the NFL. College basketball, maybe not to the same extent, but kind of always has been for the NBA. You're seeing it with the one and done guys, like, forever. Like, and that's where I think, like, NIL, its original purpose to kind of combat that, have guys be able to, get sponsorships, like, be paid for their name, image, and likeness, not just this, like, pay to play. Like, these boosters have a bunch of money. We want you to come to our school. Kids transferring just so they can get more money kind of thing that it's become, is not at all what it was supposed to be. And it just was, like, rolled out so poorly that it's going to take someone to step up and kind of be like, hey, like, this isn't right. Like, we have to change this. These are going to be laws, that are going to be in place. And granted, they're going to go to court. People are going to come after them kind of thing. But I don't know. Just right now, the trajectory of that college basketball is going in is not great. I would say at the power conference level. At the mid-major level, sure, I think it's still, college basketball. It's still, guys just playing for the love of the game. But that's the thing now. Then you're kind of starting to see is, hey, I'm a really good mid-major player. I can make a whole lot more money at the power conference level. And it might not even, like, for your development, for your playing, it's really not, a better move to transfer. But these guys want to make their money. They know they're probably not going to be an NBA player, or, they're going to have to go, if they want to play pro, like, overseas somewhere. So they see this as their opportunity to make their money. So I don't know. There's going to be something that needs to change. I think that's the problem, is, like, it's all just so unpredictable right now. And make sure to drop in the comments here, like, your guys' thoughts on this. Like, I just think it's all very unpredictable. Like, I don't know. Will it change college basketball forever? Hopefully not. I mean, I think, like I said, this temporary restraining order he got, like, only had him, I want to say, eligible for the Tennessee game, maybe, or it's like only for games in the state of Alabama, something like that. So he honestly, it could get overruled. Bediako might not even be able to play, like, next week. But I kind of doubt, the way things are going right now, that's going to happen. I would say he's probably going to get to play for a little bit of time here. So let's then kind of go on. Let's go look at those preseason picks of mine again here real quick, and just kind of how it maybe compares to the season standings in these different leagues, how, those are kind of going right now. So we'll start in the ACC. The ACC, I want to say, is the one that is probably going most according to how I thought it would at the beginning of the year here. I had Duke as my winner. They're still undefeated right now. Granted, they're playing, like I said, Louisville and Duke playing as we are live here. Might be a little bit quicker episode today, so I can catch the end of that one. And then I had Louisville as my second place team and North Carolina as my third place team. And right now, both Louisville and North Carolina are 4-3 in the ACC. They're still ranked, top 6. North Carolina's ranked 16th. Louisville's ranked 20th. And there's a lot of time left to play here, but you have Clemson, who's 7-1. They suffered their first loss against NC State last week. Virginia, Miami, and NC State are all 5-2. Virginia, though, did just lose to Carolina, but Virginia has beat Louisville this year already. And then, like I said, Carolina's tied with Carolina and Louisville at 4-3. Like I said, there's a lot of time left to play here in the ACC. I guess the one thing that's really standing out to me is Duke is kind of really coming into their own as of late. Like I said, Cam Boozer, you knew was going to be the go-to guy for them. He's obviously not as good as Cooper Flagg, but he's still, a very talented player. Is going to be a top 5 pick in the draft this year. But some of these other guys like Isaiah Evans has kind of had some better games. Caden Boozer maybe not come along as well as you're hoping, but is starting to be a better team. And I think it is. We're looking at here is Duke is going to kind of run away with the ACC again this year. Like, I don't think they're going to go undefeated in conference play. They didn't last year. I definitely think at some point they're going to suffer a loss. Great, like I said, they did already win at Louisville. They're now playing Louisville at home here tonight. Who knows? Maybe even if you're watching this on Tuesday morning, Duke could no longer be undefeated in the ACC. But we shall see. Like I said, they still have played Carolina twice. I don't think they're going to sweep Carolina again. I definitely think they'll probably lose one of those games, something like that. But yeah, right now in the ACC, I'm feeling pretty good about that pick of Duke. Second and third of Carolina, Louisville. I still could see, especially Carolina. Like I said, they had a rough week a couple weeks ago, losing, at Cal and Stanford. But I think they're kind of starting to come into their own, especially after that win against Virginia. I think if Virginia beat them over the weekend, I'd be saying I like Virginia as the second best team in the ACC. But yeah, I would probably still go Carolina. And then Louisville just kind of depends. Now Michael Brown is back healthy again, playing. If he can be healthy, play well, maybe Louisville still could be the third best team in the ACC. But as of right now, I am probably going to go with that Virginia team to come in third. I mean, Clemson's one you could throw in there as well. I just don't know if they're as talented as maybe those other teams. But yeah, right now I'm going to stick with Duke in the ACC. Then moving on to the Big East. So in the Big East, I had UConn as my pick to win it, with then St. John's in second and then Creighton in third. Which right now, that is how the standings are. Grand Creighton is also tied with Villanova at 6-3 in league play. But that's another one. I'm feeling really good. I think UConn is head and shoulders the class of the Big East. I kind of thought before the season it was UConn and St. John's were going to be head and shoulders. And granted, those two teams still are yet to play this year. So who knows? Maybe St. John's does get a split, or maybe, somehow wins both of them. I would say probably not. I do think UConn, you're seeing here, they're the second-ranked team in the country. I think they're probably pretty squarely the second best team in the country. I mean, maybe if you believe in Michigan, I don't know. Just the way Michigan's been playing, we'll get to them later. I haven't been as high on them, but we'll see. And then, like I said, St. John's in second, maybe a couple weeks ago. I think last week, I had them as one of my more disappointing teams. But honestly here, they're really coming into their own. They lost to Providence in Big East play a couple weeks ago, but other than that, they've really been rolling. They've been one of the better teams here in the Big East. I mean, they're in second. They're 8-1. That only loss was to Providence. Zuby Ejiofor has been playing really well, but, Bryce Hopkins, now that he's been healthy, playing his own. So I do really like the St. John's team. I still, at this point, would have them as the second best team in the league. Do I think they're as good as UConn anywhere near that same tier? No. Like, I definitely think they're a lot more vulnerable. Like I said, I'll be very surprised, especially just the way UConn has been winning so many close games, if they lose more than 2 games here in the Big East. St. John's, on the other hand, like, they're probably going to still lose, Like I said, they still play UConn twice. So they're going to lose at least one, if not both of those. Like, I would say St. John's probably going to end up, like 16-4, something like that in the Big East. But I don't know, the fact that they're back here now in the top 25 after that rough stretch they're going through, impressive for the Johnnies. So like them as the second best team. And then third, like I said, Creighton right now, but Villanova's really up there as well. Devin Askew's been playing really well for them. Bryce Lindsey as well. So there's been a lot of guys on Villanova. They took UConn to overtime at UConn this past weekend. So they're a really talented team. I guess, honestly, right now, if I had to, I'd probably go them as the third best team in the Big East. But I think it's very much still alive and well where like both those teams could be tournament teams where the Big East could get 4 teams, have those 4 teams in. But like I said, I think UConn definitely the best team. St. John's definitely second best team. So it's kind of like UConn, St. John's here, and then like Villanova, Creighton, like right here a little bit below St. John's in the Big East. And then the Big 12. This is probably the one that I have completely whiffed on. I did not have Arizona in my top 3 picks here in the Big 12. I had Houston as my winner. I had Texas Tech in second and BYU in third. But just completely did not have Arizona. And, man, I really just think it's been the freshmen. The freshmen, Braden Berries, Jaden Bradley, Koa Pete for Arizona, like a lot of guys that, I knew were good. But the fact that they're this good, it's really something. So we'll see here. Arizona tonight does have to play at BYU. So that's kind of their first test against these top teams here in the Big 12. We'll see how that goes, especially, Marriott Center, never an easy place to play. Definitely a very tough place to play. But right now, revisiting it, I'd have Arizona as my pick to win the Big 12. And like I said, I think they're my pick to win the national championship at this moment. We'll see. We're still yesterday was 7 weeks from Selection Sunday, so a lot of time left here. But we'll have to see. And then, Texas Tech now in second, 6-1 in the league. Now, one loss is to Houston, but then they avenged it during the week here, taking down the Cougars by a final score of, I want to say it was like 76-72, something like that. Sort of was on the Alabama-Tennessee score. Yes. Yeah. Or I'm sorry, 90-86. 90-86. JT Toppin went for 31 in that one. Kingston Flemings with 42. So those are 2 teams. Like I would say right now, those are probably my second and third picks here in the Big 12. I'm probably gonna go Houston second. Like I said, Texas Tech did beat them during the week, but I do just like Houston a little bit more, especially with how well Kingston Fleming's been playing. Like I thought it was really gonna be like Sharp, Uzan, guys like that for the Cougars coming into the start of the year here. But it's really been like Fleming's having a big game, and then like Chris Sinak's been playing really well as well. So Cougars, I still think are my second place team here in the Big 12. Maybe I could see like them kind of more in a tier with Arizona, where I think they can maybe still win the Big 12. But right now I would go Arizona 1. And then 3, I'm probably going Texas Tech just because they have already beat BYU this year. And just Christian Anderson and JT Toppin, I think might be the best duo here in college hoops this season. I don't really know if there's a team better than them, like those two, in all honesty. I think Iowa State's also a team, you got to throw up there. They're 5-2 here in the league, so falling a little bit, and like tied with Kansas, and Kansas already beat them. I would think, they're maybe a team like I could put up there to come in third, but I don't know. I feel like I just haven't really been as high on the Cyclones after that, week where they lost the 2 straight games. Granted, now they've bounced back very nice, like blew out UCF. I forget who they beat over the weekend, but they beat Oklahoma State at Oklahoma State. So they're a really good team too. Like the Big 12 is by far the best league in college hoops this year, I will say. It's probably my favorite to watch. Like I said, I'm really excited for that BYU Arizona game tonight. But yeah, I'm going Arizona 1. I think Houston still at 2 right now, that I could still see them winning it. And then I'm going to go Texas Tech 3, but you couldn't go wrong with Iowa State either. Then moving on to the Big 10. And this is another one. I'm not going to say whiffed on it, but Nebraska was nowhere near my consideration for top team in the Big 10. And here we are. Nebraska leading the Big 10 right now, 20-0, 9-0 in the Big 10. Said very big test at Michigan this week. Wolverines, third-ranked team in the country, 18-1, got upset by Wisconsin on their home floor a couple weeks ago. Little inconsistent from the Wolverines, but I definitely still think they're up there. I think, I'm going to pick them to win that game tomorrow night. I think that should be a really good contest, just with how good, Yaxel Lendenberg is. Ademar has been playing really well, and even Morez Johnson had a nice game on Friday too against Ohio State. But yeah, it's just Michigan does turn the ball over a lot. So if Nebraska can capitalize on that, I think that's gonna be a big thing here in that game. Also depends if Braden Frager is able to go for Nebraska. He was not able to go over the weekend, and they're come from behind win against Minnesota. So he plays a really big role. Plus Sam Hoiberg been playing really well for the Cornhuskers as of late as well. But yeah, looking at my preseason picks, I had Purdue 1, Michigan 2, UCLA 3. And honestly, I think before this weekend, Purdue would have been my pick to win the Big Ten, but really, really tough week for them. First, they lose at UCLA, where UCLA was actually the team on the, kind of travel disadvantage there, despite it being at home, because Purdue, that was their second leg of their LA trip. They beat USC 2 weekends ago. And then go to UCLA on Tuesday, where UCLA was coming from playing at Ohio State earlier in the week. But the Bruins get an upset win there. And then I think even more kind of concerning is Purdue, with no Killian Boswell for Illinois, loses at home to Illinois after Keaton Wagler went for 46 points. And he's just been insane for the Fighting Illini lately, where the Fighting Illini of Illinois are a team you have to kind of have now in this conversation for a team that I think could be up there in the Big Ten before the season, or even before this weekend. I kind of said, I don't know if Illinois is in that same class as Purdue, but this is the only match between the two teams this year, and Illinois went into West Lafayette and beat them. So impressive win there from the Fighting Illini. But so looking at it right now, if I had to go my picks, like I said, I still think I don't know if I want to go Purdue after this past week. Like I said, I think now I am going to go Michigan. I'm going to go Michigan to win at least the regular season title here in the Big Ten. I don't know about the tournament. That's where things, kind of could get iffy. That's the thing. Michigan would not be a team I picked to win the national title right now. Right now, I think it would be Arizona or UConn would be my picks. Then, if you want to, I still could still see like a Houston. Texas Tech's kind of been sneaky lately as well. I think Duke is kind of starting to come into their own. I don't know. I still have kind of some reservations with Duke, but you maybe throw them in there. I really think a lot of these Big 12 teams couldn't go wrong with. But I think I'm going to go Michigan to win the Big Ten. I'm going to go Purdue second. I'm still going to go Purdue. Like I said, I think maybe this is just a tough week. We'll see here. There's a lot of time for them to kind of right the ship. And then third, as good of a story as they are and how much I want to pick Nebraska, I think after this past week, you gotta pick Illinois. Just like all the different guys Illinois has. Like I mentioned, Wagler rose for 46. During the week, Andrei Stojakovic was their leader going for 30. Like they got David Mirkovic, who plays really well. Like they just have so many talented guys on this Illinois squad. Granted, Nebraska has already beat Illinois at Illinois this year, but I don't know. That was almost kind of before Nebraska was this story that they are now. Like, so maybe Illinois kind of overlooked them a little bit. I mean, they lost by 3. Plus, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Illinois' 3 losses this year are to Alabama, UConn, and Nebraska. So, like, 3 very good teams. I think the Fighting Illini are kind of almost a little underrated. So I'm going to go with them. It's my pick to come in third here in the Big Ten. And then my final conference here, the final conference that we looked at for the season, the SEC. And this is maybe the most wide open league, like power conference league of the 5. So before the season, I had Florida to come in first, Alabama second, Kentucky third. Right now, we have Texas A&M in first at 6-1 in the league, 16-4 on the year. Arkansas in second at 5-2 in the league, 15-5 on the year. And then Florida now falls to third, 5-2, 14-6 on the year after Florida lost to Auburn. That was a really impressive win for Auburn to go into Florida behind 24 from Keyshawn Hall, knock off the Gators 76-67. Game that they really led most of. Florida looked like maybe they were going to pull off the comeback here in the second half, but they weren't able to get done. Auburn, had the response, and they limited, I want to say Alex Condon. I don't know if he scored more than 2 points this game. It was a really, really tough game from him. So Florida, like I said, they would have been my pick before this game, and I still think they could, but that's what I'm saying. The SEC, I feel like right now is wide open. Kentucky is 5-2, and they've had some close ones. It took surviving on a buzzer beater against LSU. They then had a big comeback win against Tennessee, and they're a team it's hard to figure out now. I think without Jahan Lowe and Jaden Quaintons, like with those two guys not playing, as talented as they are, it's almost kind of been better here for Kentucky. Now I think they are kind of starting to get into a bit of a rhythm here. They won during the week as well, taking down Ole Miss 72-63 behind 23 points from Otega Owe. And Otega Owe had a really slow start this year, in all honesty, and I feel like he's kind of starting to play up to his potential now as well. So that's been really good to see. Arkansas is like a sneaky one. I almost like Arkansas as a team. I could see winning the SEC at least here in the regular season, just because Darius Acuff is so good. He goes for 31 points in the Razorbacks' 85-81 win over LSU during the week. Him and Trayvon Brazile been playing really good, because that's the thing too. Arkansas just destroyed Vanderbilt here during the week. Vanderbilt finally back in the win column, taking down Mississippi State 88-56 behind 24 points from Tyler Tanner. And that was the thing, like last week, or maybe not last week, but like 2 weeks ago, before Vanderbilt lost 3 straight when they were undefeated, like they were a team like you could argue that could win the SEC. I really think, like, looking at these teams, like Texas A&M's currently in first. They probably won't be my pick, but like any of Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, Georgia's kind of been sneaky. Or I'm sorry, did they win? No, they got killed. I forgot. Georgia before last weekend when they got killed by Texas, I would say is like sneaky up there. Missouri's like had some nice wins. They've beaten Florida here in league play. Vandy, like I said, I think could be up there. Maybe not as talented as a Florida or an Arkansas and like Kentucky, but maybe just like a better all-around team. Just kind of depends how far like Tyler Tanner, Darius Miles, Tyler Nickel can kind of take them. And then, like I said, the Tennessee and Alabama result, like those two teams, like Alabama killed Kentucky, but now lost Tennessee, who lost to Kentucky. So it's kind of just like there's a lot of these kind of all going here in reverse here. I mean, Auburn's still even 4-3 in the league, like beating Florida over the weekend, like I mentioned. The SEC is definitely very wide open. Like Texas, they're 3-4 now, but like I said, they killed Georgia. They handed Vanderbilt their first loss or someone else. They beat Alabama. Like Texas kind of been like sneaky at times. Ole Miss beat Georgia. Like this is a very, very deep league in all honesty. It's not as talented as it was last year. Like the top of the SEC was much better last year. Like honestly, the team that wins SEC this year might only be a 3 seed in the tournament, maybe a 4 seed. But if I had to go right now, my picks here in the SEC, I think I'm still going Florida. I think this was just kind of a weird kind of blip where I just don't think they played well. Like I said, I think they've really kind of been coming into their own. The first conference game against Missouri when they lost wasn't great, but really until this weekend, I've been pretty impressed with how they've been playing. Like I said, they beat Vanderbilt last weekend. They got a big one coming up against Alabama here this week, so we'll see how that one goes. That one's over the weekend, like on Sunday, which is kind of odd. The SEC doesn't usually play on Sundays. So I would say like Florida and Arkansas right now are my kind of top here of the conference. I'd probably go Florida 1, Arkansas 2. And then third, I guess, you know what? As crazy as the SEC has been, I'm going to stick with not completely sticking. I'm going to go Kentucky. I'm going to go Florida, Arkansas, and then Kentucky. So still got Florida to win, still got Kentucky to come in third. But I like Arkansas. Like I said, their freshmen have been better than I kind of thought they were going to be before the year. So give me Arkansas to be my third place or a second place team here in the SEC, and then Kentucky to come in third. So quickly here, just to kind of wrap up college basketball, just kind of going to look at the schedule this week. And like I said, let me know down in the comments, what kind of games you guys are excited for. That can kind of maybe influence some of these conference predictions like I talked about here. So yeah, like I said, right now we got Duke and Louisville going on. Duke's currently up 22-16 here early, or like about halfway through the first half. And then Arizona at BYU tonight should be really fun. Arizona's favored in that one despite it being at the Marriott Center. And yeah, I think I am going to go with Arizona to win there in kind of a tough environment. Then on Tuesday, Nebraska at Michigan's the one to headline the day for sure. And it's crazy. It is, like I said, it's a top 5 contest. Michigan's favored by 10.5. And that's kind of what they've done to teams this season. Like I said, they beat Gonzaga by 40 earlier in the year. They closer game against Ohio State, but they still end up, winning by double digits. So all sorts of stuff like that. I do think Nebraska keeps it close. Just kind of that's how Nebraska has been this season. But I am going to go Michigan to take that one, I believe. Providence heads to UConn. Those two teams played a pretty good game their first time. Kentucky at Vanderbilt's another good SEC contest here on Tuesday. And then, I think that's really kind of it for Tuesday. I guess UMass and Miami Ohio Redhawks, talked about them last week. I feel like tune into them if you haven't yet, and they're getting a good amount of TV slots here, which is good to see. Then moving on here to Wednesday, we have no really kind of super notable matchups. Tennessee at Georgia, not a ranking contest, but like I said, those are two teams that have kind of been fun here in the SEC. Houston heads on the road to TCU, and then Florida heads to South Carolina. So we'll see, never easy to go on the road in college hoops, see if anything kind of happens there. Then moving on to the weekend, looking here, we start on Friday with Michigan at Michigan State. So really big game week here for the Wolverines, playing two top 10 teams. Because Michigan State, a team that I haven't really even talked about in this video, but they are ranked 7th in the country. They honestly could be a team there in the Big Ten as well. But that's how deep it is, and that's just kind of how good I think Michigan, Purdue, Illinois, if you want to throw Nebraska in there, Nebraska beat Michigan State, really are here at the top of the league. Villanova on Friday hosts Providence as well, so that could be a fun one. Then Saturday, we got Duke heading on the road to Virginia Tech, Houston hosting Cincinnati. Texas Tech has to head to UCF. Never easy to kind of go across the country there. Arizona heads to their rivals, Arizona State, which that game was kind of close at points here the first time they met. Any other really notable? I think that was kind of it. BYU at Kansas. That's the one. 13th ranked BYU, 14th ranked Kansas. So also the Cougars, huge week here. Darren Peterson did not play in Kansas's win over the weekend at Kansas State. So his health, once again, is kind of something in question. But if he does, and to get AJ DeBance versus Darren Peterson, I think that would be a really fun one. And looking the rest here on Saturday, I think that's kind of it. Vanderbilt has to head to Ole Miss. Like I said, Ole Miss has kind of pulled a couple upsets here so far in the SEC. So we'll see, if they could do it again against Vanderbilt. And then St. Mary's at Gonzaga is always a fun WCC contest. Last year, we're getting those two teams, and Gonzaga has been played tougher by some of these WCC teams here this year. Seattle took them to overtime in the opener. The Gonzaga won by 2 with a late basket against San Francisco during the week. Now hosting St. Mary's team that always plays them tough. That should be a good one. And then Sunday, like I mentioned, we got Alabama at Purdue, the headliner. That one's at 1 Eastern on ABC. So especially, I guess that's with no football here on Sunday. Might as well have a big game. Purdue has to head to Maryland very bad. And then Illinois at Nebraska. So Illinois-Nebraska round 2. Like I said, Nebraska won on a buzzer beater at Illinois. And now they go again. So that should be a good one. Now to wrap up the show, let's move over, talk a little NBA, because there was some NBA discourse this week that I thought was very interesting, and it's just kind of one that I want to touch on here. So this past week, if you didn't know, which again you honestly might not, they do try to market it, but I think it's kind of dumb. This past week was NBA Rivals Week. So this first week here now they do that, the NBA really starts kind of focusing on okay, now it's our turn. There's not as much football. It's like this week here where they can do this ABC triple header on Saturday since there's no Saturday NFL games. The past couple of years they've done this Rivals Week thing. And honestly, just my biggest thing with it is a lot of these rivalries are just such a stretch. So we start with last Tuesday was Spurs Rockets and then Lakers Nuggets. Okay, Spurs Rockets definitely a rivalry. Lakers Nuggets, sure, they played in the playoffs a couple times here. But then Wednesday, we have Cavs at Hornets and Thunder Bucks. So they do this the Ball brothers, whichever team Lonzo's on plays the Hornets. That's not a rivalry. Sure, it's a sibling rivalry, but I love Lonzo Ball. He's not a good enough player, and just the Hornets suck. That shouldn't be one of the marquee games here. So that doesn't make. And then Thunder Bucks. I have no clue how Thunder and Bucks is a rivalry at all. They're not in the same conference. That just makes no sense to me. Thursday, Warriors Mavericks. All right, sure, they've had some they've played in the playoffs. Clay's now on the Mavs. Sure, Lakers Clippers. Yes, definitely a rivalry. Then we once again have the same thing on Friday. Rockets, Pistons, because it's the Thompson twins facing off, and then Nuggets, Bucks, because Giannis and Jokic apparently are rivals. Like it's just branded so poorly. I don't get it. I don't get why like half these games they call here for rivalry week. And here's what I'll do. Here's what my fix would be. If they want to like make a marquee week here and like maybe do even still call it rivals week here like to start like hey, start watching NBA. Just have it be all divisional games. Like I'm sorry, there's maybe not something more pointless in the NBA than divisions. Like they don't matter at all. So just have it maybe here. That's how you can finally maybe try to get divisions to matter. Like I said, have games like Lakers Clippers, have Rockets Spurs, and then like Spurs Mavericks. Like even I guess if you want to like keep them all like in conference, but I just don't know how we're having like Bucks Thunder or Rockets Pistons or even Bucks Nuggets as rivalries. And like that's the thing too. They also like the rivalries only apply to these national TV games. So I just think that would make it a lot more interesting is just have it be like all mainly division and like maybe some like just conference games. Like that would be I think more entertaining maybe than you could actually kind of get some rivalries there, have those be fun games. Then the other thing, and again, I hate that this is the way it is, but I don't know. This almost seems how NBA media is a lot of the just like discourse online and complaining about stuff that's just kind of how it is. It's about complaining about stuff. So inside the NBA finally returned on Saturday night against after the Lakers Mavericks game, and it was the NBA inside the NBA's first time having a broadcast since Christmas. And before then, I want to say it was like the beginning of November, maybe December. But well, here, I just pulled it up. Okay, so they had Christmas. Yeah, no, it was November. So inside the NBA was like Wednesdays and Thursdays primarily. The first, Wednesdays and Thursday, the first two ESPN broadcast nights of the season. Then Wednesday, October 29th, and then Wednesday, November 12th. They then didn't do a show again until Christmas. And then since Christmas, Saturday night was their first one. They are doing Wednesday this week. But then after that, it's primarily just Saturdays, a couple Fridays thrown in there, a Sunday. Or no, I'm sorry, that's not even the – no, okay, it is a Sunday. And granted, the show wasn't rushed. And granted, people had, criticisms of it being like, inside the NBA at one point, they were talking about, I want to say it was like the Pistons-Hornets game being like, if you had nothing to do, like you had nothing to do if you went to this game kind of thing. And I don't know. I get it. Sometimes their old man's yelling at clouds bit is a little – it's a lot at times. But why I think it was funny and why it worked was because it was once a week for, at whatever time late at night on like a Tuesday. And it was great. It was funny. I enjoyed it. I can tell you this. Anytime it's on a Saturday night, I'm probably not going to get to watch it. Like it's not going to be a marquee thing for me. And I just don't understand why it is. Like in all honesty, ESPN just has too many things. They have too much of an inventory. And it's why, as much as, I think definitely Prime and like NBC have done a great job with their like studio stuff. Inside the NBA would have been so much better off getting picked up by one of those two networks. I don't know why ESPN was like, we need it. And they already have like Scott Van Pelt Sports Center, just like, Sports Center. So I don't know. It just seems kind of odd to me. But here's the, again, I'm not just going to complain about stuff. I'm also going to have fix. So I really like, again, we'll see how it goes next week. NBC starting next week is doing Sunday night basketball. Like they're kind of fully going all in on this. Like, hey, we have Sunday night football. Now we have Sunday night basketball. Once basketball's done, ESPN or NBC now has Sunday night baseball. So they're just going all in on that. And I think that's what like ESPN, Prime, they should all try to do. Like they all broadcast the NFL and now they broadcast the NBA. So I think like Prime, once Thursday night football's done, should do Thursday night basketball on Amazon Prime kind of thing. Like they can all have, their one day like during football season that they do during the week. And then they now all add a second day where they broadcast games once football's over. And then that's what I think. ESPN, which granted right now I know they have like college basketball on Mondays. And like Big Monday's the whole thing there. But honestly, like I'd rather flip it. Do like Big Monday is on Peacock, NBC Sports Network Peacock, and then Monday Night Basketball is on ESPN. And I think that would be a perfect time to have inside the NBA. Like have it be, one game starts at, tips off like 7:30. They maybe have like a 30-minute pregame show beforehand, like they would do on TNT, and then they do their, like hour or whatever it was post-game show after. Also, it wouldn't start as late if it was just one game here on Mondays. Like I said, if it's a 7 or 7:30 tip, the inside the NBA starts at like, or I'm sorry, I'm also talking in Central Time right now. So like 8:30 tip, it starts at what, like then like 11 p.m., which I think, is kind of normal. Like that's honestly earlier than they used to start. And then sure, you can still go into Sports Center after that if you want. So I think that would be my fix. I think that would be really cool if ESPN did that, does like a Monday Night Basketball. Once football here's over, like I said, I think it would just be smart branding for these different companies, for the NBA, to kind of try to do that. So let me know your guys' thoughts there on that. Like I said, I think that would be my fix. I think that's how it would get them just kind of in a better rhythm, because it's a lot easier to do a show when you're doing it once a week, not like once a month, or doing it once a week for 4 weeks and then taking a month off in between for the next two shows. Like, and that's the thing, SportsCenter's on every day, man. Like I so much like wish ESPN would just have more like specific, like they do NBA Today every day. You can do inside the NBA once a week for your NBA games. Like I said, I think Mondays would be a great day to do it, kind of thing. So I'm looking then to kind of hear the rest of the NBA. As we see here, still Detroit officially clinched the 1 seed in the East through the All-Star break. So JP Bickerstaff named one of the head coaches here for the All-Star game. That's in a couple weeks here. And then Thunder still in first, 5.5 up on San Antonio. I'll just go quickly through here. Any other kind of games to watch this week here in the NBA right now? We got Magic and Cavs on, and then Warriors, Timberwolves, two teams that are pretty close here in the West, as the second game tonight. The Bucks take on the Sixers on NBC tomorrow, with then Clippers, Jazz being the second game of that doubleheader. Wednesday, like I said, we're going to have inside of the NBA after Lakers at Cavs, and then Rockets at Spurs, which should be a good one too. The kind of top tier teams there in the West. Thursday, Bucks, Wizards on Prime, and then Thunder, Timberwolves. Those teams have played some fun ones. That's the second game of that Prime doubleheader. And then Friday, also on ESPN, we got Raptors at Magic, Pistons, Warriors, and then the Saturday ABC game, Mavs, Rockets. So some good NBA contests. Like I said, this is kind of when I start watching more NBA once football's over. Like I'm locked in on college basketball all the time, but then looking for something to watch, on the other days that maybe the college basketball slates aren't as great, I usually then kind of go to the NBA or NHL. So if you're a hoops fan like myself, definitely some good NBA games to watch this week. But that's going to wrap this episode up. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. Like I said, make sure to drop in the comments your thoughts on my picks here on who I have winning each conference. Maybe, my thoughts on how to fix some of these NBA marketing schemes. While you're down there, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the Variety Sports Network here. A lot of good content. I know some college football end of the season stuff just dropped. I'm sure going to be a lot more, stuff talking NFL, talking Super Bowl, and then baseball. Once baseball gets in the full swing, 7th inning stretch does a great job. And then, I've even seen the 5-hole, some hockey talk as well. Like I said, I tune into the NHL a little bit more now here once NFL ends as well. So a lot of good stuff on the channel. Make sure to check it out. Thank you guys once again for watching. I'll see y'all next Monday. Peace.